How high can Bitcoin go? I'm pretty sure that you have heard this question somewhere on the internet, either from traders or maybe influencers, but I'm here to tell you that this type of question is a huge trap. So we're going to go over some technical analysis and why I believe that trying to predict Bitcoin price is a terrible idea. So the first thing I want to talk about is whenever you go to TradingView, for example, what is the first thing that pops up on the trading ideas? You're going to see everywhere people talking about future prices using trend lines. And I think trend lines are good if you want to use as a range or if you want to have an idea of possible price, supply, and demands. But as a price prediction tool, I don't think it is good. If you stop to think about it, there is absolutely no reason in which the price will respect the line that you draw on the chart. And it is quite arbitrary as well. Some people are going to draw a line and they're going to wait for 3 or 4 confirmations before the breakout. Maybe the price is going to bounce 4 or 5 times and it is going to continue to bounce. There is absolutely no rule and no validation. This also makes you think that if you put a chart for 2 traders and you ask them to draw a trend line, both of them, each one of them, are going to draw a different trend line. So each one of them are going to have different price predictions based on their trend line. And I've also seen that sometimes people are going to draw trend lines and they do something like this, and then the price changes the behavior again and they do something like this, and then the price change the behavior along the way and they start trending like this. So it is actually difficult to validate. But again, if you want to draw trend lines so you can have an idea of supply and demand, I think they're great. But for price prediction, not a good one. Similar to trend lines, we also have something that is very, very famous, which is the Bitcoin power law. So the Bitcoin power law is pretty much trend lines drawn based on the market cap of Bitcoin. You're going to have the upper trend line, downtrend line, and something along the way in the middle or the average. But here's the thing with the power law. It is good, again, so you can have an idea of the range as a macro analysis, as an overall performance of Bitcoin price and market cap, but it is a terrible idea to try to predict the prices with the power law. If you zoom in a little bit, back in 2019, 2020, everyone was talking about that the price was going parabolic, and around 2021 everyone was saying that Bitcoin was going to hit 350, 500, 1 million, so on and so forth. But no, it didn't happen. It didn't even touch the upper band right here. Also, in the same way, after the bull cycle was finished, everyone was talking about that this is the end of Bitcoin, it's going to hit zero, so on and so forth. And of course, it also did not happen. We can also take into consideration that during this time we also had the COVID-19. But anyways, I think it is a terrible idea to try to predict the prices based on the power law. It is good to have an idea of ranges or maybe how much it may go or may not go. But anyways, price predictions using power law, I'm not a big fan of it. Another way that I see people trying to predict the prices is using the famous M2 Global Liquidity Index. So as we know, Bitcoin price is on a really, really strong correlation with the M2 global liquidity. Some people are using the offset of 78 days, 87 days, 105 days. It varies, right? But as you can see, many people are using it to try to have an overall idea of the Bitcoin direction. And I think this is good. As an overall idea of where the Bitcoin price may go, it is quite useful. However, I don't think it is a good idea to actually establish possible price target and possible and how high or how low the Bitcoin price can go, especially in the short term. If you zoom in the global liquidity back on 2022, the index continued to rise, whereas the Bitcoin price actually started to go down tremendously. Eventually they caught up again in the future, but like I said, overall, as an idea of where the price is going, it is good. However, you can see right here that sometimes the price diverges, like here and also here, and also on 2022. So in the short term, to have a price prediction especially, I don't think is a good idea. So I don't use the M2 Global Liquidity either. Now that begs the question, what can you do in order to plan your trades? And also, can you actually predict Bitcoin price? And straight answer, you cannot, and no one can predict Bitcoin price. But I'm a big believer of position management and risk management by using some key indicators that I think are quite valuable. And the first tool I want to talk about is the famous Pi cycle. The Pi cycle is the crossover of the 111 daily moving average with the 350 daily moving average times 2 as a weight. So it is just really accurate to predict the tops, right? If the moving averages cross over, we are quite close to the peaks. However, that tool is not really good to predict the bottoms, and that's why I actually have a tool that I developed, which is the Predator Oscillator. If you have a look at the Predator Oscillator and you zoom in to the April 2021, you're going to find that once the momentum and the price line crossover, as well as with the upper band, we had the peak, the actual peak of the bull run. And after the price went down and all the lines crossed over again, we actually hit the bottom before continue to the next cycle. So the Predator Oscillator is something that I'm still fine-tuning it, but I think it's quite accurate for Bitcoin to confirm if Bitcoin price has reached its top or its bottom. But nevertheless, I still think the Pi cycle is quite accurate when it comes to predicting the peaks, so I still use it. Also, aside from the Pi cycle, we also have the Fear and Greed Index. And again, if you're talking about risk management and position management, you see there is a strong confirmation from the index that when it is above 80, maybe hitting the 90 level, we are going to hit the peak pretty soon. And when it is below the 20 level, we are actually on the extreme fear, and no one talks about Bitcoin, no one buys Bitcoin, and this is actually the best time to buy. It's just like everyone says, right? Be greedy when they're fearful, and be fearful when they're greedy. So this Fear and Greed Index chart is quite accurate to gauge how the market sentiment is when it comes to Bitcoin, and can help you to have an idea of where we are on the peaks and bottoms. Aside from that, we also have the MVRVZ score, which if you use alongside with the other tools, it is going to give you a really nice prediction of the bottoms and the peaks. But again, neither of these tools I use it to actually predict Bitcoin price. So that's why I think that trying to think where the price will go is actually a trap. It is much better if you just manage your position, have a look at the market, have a close look at your indicators, is much more valuable. If you guys actually use some sort of tool to predict the Bitcoin price, I would like to know. I'm very curious. Just let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.